Hi, everybody. This is Carol Sherwood. Welcome to the Stephen Avery The Devil is in the Details video podcast. So today's episode is a brief one, but it's an important one, and it's episode number 4. And this is called the Pizza 911 call. So let's get started. How many of you are familiar with the 911 phone call that Karen Halbach made on November the 3rd to report her daughter, Teresa Halbach, missing? Probably everybody. By now you've probably heard it or you've read the transcript and you know that she called. It was close to 3 o'clock in the afternoon at some point after Tom Pierce said that he called her after lunchtime to let her know he was concerned and hadn't seen Teresa to see if maybe she had. So then I believe that Karen reports that she was calling around to employers and friends to see if any of them had seen Teresa prior to her making this 911 call. So let's say Tom calls at 1-ish, something like that. And then Karen calls at, I believe the timing was like 2:52. So, but after that, some phone calls are supposed to be made. Now, remember, I'm the queen of phone calls don't lie. Our phone records don't lie. So, if you go look at Auto Trader's phone records for 11/3, because they've been FOIA'd and Kathleen Zellner had subpoenaed them and gotten the records through like November the 14th, I believe, or 15th. So if you go look at those phone records, oddly, there is no phone call from the home phone of Karen Halbach on 11/3 to Auto Trader. Not to any of the phone numbers that are listed that Zellner has the FOIA records for, which also are the phone numbers listed on the front of those catalogs in Hale's Corners. Plus, they're the same phone numbers that Teresa has on her phone records for Auto Trader. So just making sure we're all on the same page, that Karen said she was calling friends and employers. Well, Tom said he called Karen. Well, we don't have copies of Tom's phone records or the Halbach's phone records to see what if that phone call took place, but we're going to assume it did. But we do have Auto Trader's phone records, and we can see there is not a phone call from Karen Halbach's home number, which is the only number that she called Teresa from on Teresa's phone records for the entire year that phone records are provided for Teresa Halbach. So that's a little odd, because someone called to tell her that they were concerned because they hadn't seen Teresa, Tom Pierce, and then for Karen to say that she called employers, which the only other employer is Auto Trader, and there is no phone call there. So maybe she called from somebody else's house. Who knows? But she does call the 911 emergency line to report her daughter missing. Now, I got to say this as a disclaimer right up front. I'm not trying to be disrespectful in any way whatsoever toward Karen Halbach or the Halbach family. They have lost a loved one, and I can't imagine that despair of a parent losing a child. My sister passed away before my mom did several years ago, and that was devastating for my mother. She did not ever expect to bury one of her children. And so I know that that is something that is very, heartbreaking for a parent. Nevertheless, I do want to bring up some things in the case that may be a little bit difficult to talk about, but at the same time, they're very important. And this 911 call is very, very important, because you know that I believe that the car is not Teresa's car. So that ties to a whole lot of hokey stuff that have been found out through the years that are really, really questionable. All right. So let's take a look at the 911 phone call. Karen calls in and the lady answers 911, and Karen says, I want to report a missing person. And the woman asks her who it is. She says, it's my daughter. And they kind of go through the when did you last see her, and where does she live, and she gave the address. And then they go into a good description of the car, which there's a little bit of a comical note in there because the dispatcher asked Karen, did you say red or green? And I was like, well, I guess maybe she thought red sounds like green. But so Karen says dark green kind of, and that's where part of the green comes in all the car stuff. And then she calls it a RAV4 Toyota. And the dispatcher says, did you say Ford Toyota? And of course, Karen corrects her, and the lady said, well, I didn't think I'd ever heard of that kind of car before. And I'm thinking, you're a dispatcher? Do you really think there's a Ford Toyota? And I just let that go. So it was just kind of comical just to hear it and to read it in the transcript. So she gets through the 911 call, and the lady at the end of it says, all the officers are on calls right now, but we'll send somebody over to your house to see if they can do anything. Now, I'm a mom. I'm calling in to report my daughter is missing. And your nonchalant voice, when you hear it on that 911 call, says, okay, well, we'll send somebody over there after one of them become available to see if they can do anything. It's a missing person. I mean, maybe I'm supposed to get what she means, but that's a little bit of a weird statement. But that's not the biggest weird part of this whole call. Do you want me to tell you what the biggest weird part of this whole call is? It's the fact that they hang up the phone, and there is a protocol that 911 operators at least in the entire U.S. go by. It may not be identical, but the very first thing at the top is to find out who, what, where, when, and a description. And do you know what's not on that phone 911 call? A description of Teresa Halbach. We don't know if she's white, black, green, yellow, Asian. Don't know. Don't know what color hair she has. Don't know what color eyes she has. Don't know how tall she is. Don't know how heavy she is. Nothing. Have no clue what Teresa Halbach looks like, because Karen was not asked by the 911 operator, and Karen didn't offer it either, which I'm not going to blame Karen for that, because that's part of protocol. Now you tell me, how do you as a 911 operator miss on a missing person's 911 call a description of the missing person? I mean, it's tough enough to listen to because Karen Halbach sounds like a Stepford wife in it. I call it the pizza call because I sound more excited when I'm ordering a pizza than Karen did to report her daughter missing. Teresa hasn't been seen since the morning of October 31st. Karen calls in the afternoon of 11/3 after she's apparently gotten a call from Tom Pierce, if that's true. And so she makes this 911 call to report her daughter missing, and the woman sounds like she's ordering a pizza. And then at the end of the call, and you go back and read the transcript and you listen to the call, and there is no description whatsoever of the missing person. How you going to look for her? But by Jovie, we know what car she's driving, and we know what color it is, and we know what license plate it is. Something's fishy, folks. Just telling you, something's fishy.